been. And that when we wrote the article, we said, listen, even your own handpicked commentators, your handpicked experts, Professor Shane and David Sachs said, Professor Shane says in the article, while it isn't an obvious representation of a Jewish capitalist, David Sachs says the cartoon does not have stereotypical anti-Semitic Jewish features. This does not stop them from attacking the BDS for being anti-Semitic. It forced the BDS to issue a statement to say that the South African Jewish Report's assumption that the portrayal of a greedy capitalist is a portrayal of a Jew, insinuating that any fat capitalist is Jewish without question, an anti-Semitic assumption. So the BDS told them before the article was written, but how can you guys say that? This is a labor dispute between Giusa and Clover workers, right? When they draw a cartoon, why do you think it is Jewish automatically? But let me tell you, in the comment we wrote, that the union has used cartoons before to advocate for their cause. One of the cartoons that the Nelspruit branch used was of a black boss who's got their big face, big eyes, big lips, everything, the worker standing over a boss sitting there. And the worker tells him that he wants a wage increase. He's got 7 kids. The boss or the manager, the boss replies, I pay you for what you produce at work, not at home, right? There was no concern there that this portrayal, this image of a black person is wrong. And we took issue to say, listen, man, every criticism of Israel is not anti-Semitic. Israel has a lot to answer for. It's got a lot to argue what some journalists, activists call ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. Gideon Levy, a Jewish writer, writes every day in Haaretz, the Jewish paper, and he says that there's a plague is spreading. Under the cover of a just war against anti-Semitism, Europe and the United States silence every voice daring to criticize Israel, right? And by doing so, he says, I quote, they are undermining the freedom of speech. So this is what happened. And this year, what the Ombuds office found was that by putting this headline as if it was a fact and writing the way they've done in the article, they were undermining the standards of the press code and procedure. This should have been in inverted commas to say, says Professor Shane. We don't mind then. Any other Tom, Dick, and Harry can say what they want. But when they pass this off as a fact to say that any criticism of the state of Israel, any criticism of a capitalist boss who happens to be white or whatever the connections are, because the company there is a company from Israel, therefore it is anti-Semitic, is blatantly wrong. So it's a small victory, but I must tell you, it is the beginning of things to come.
Well, certainly is, Hassen, and I think what I found interesting is what the Ombud had observed is the question of opinion versus fact. And this is exactly what he said, that the headline should have made it clear that it reflected someone's opinion and not an accepted fact.
Yeah, I mean, in their reply to our papers, they only quote Professor Shane. But David Sachs was used as much, and he's the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. So these are old activists fighting a certain cause, and the intention is to delegitimate the BDS and anyone who speaks against the state of Israel. But we are happy to state there are critical Jewish Voices. Jewish Voices for Peace have started a campaign on Facebook, telling Facebook, let us talk. We must talk, because they think the way that Facebook are trying to do this, exactly what Jewish Report has done, is clearly wrong. Every criticism of the state of Israel is not anti-Semitic, and that's a campaign there. What the MRN is doing, what the BDS is doing, what a number of groups all over the world is trying to do. In fact, every time the supporters of the state of Israel, Zionist groups, try to delegitimate voices by banning them, these are overturned in human rights courts. So clearly, while they go to the bosses and to government, we go to the people, because the people, ordinary people, wherever they are, in Israel, occupied Palestine, all over the world, know there's only one solution. If you talk to ordinary people, that the common fate of our humanity is there. That racism, Islamophobia, hate against Jewish people, all of it must be fought together. And by crying wolf, to say every time a critic of Israel speaks, therefore it's anti-Semitic. When the real anti-Semites stand up, they will not see them.
Well, Hassen, Jazakallah for that and for your time with us this morning on Salam Media. We wish you all the best, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for having me. Wa alaikum salam.
Osman's Taj Mahal Spice and Rice. For over 80 years, Osman's Taj Mahal have been perfecting the art of the perfect blend of spices, pure, aromatic, and well-seasoned. Spices to tantalize your taste buds. From creative cuisines to gastronomical gourmet goodies, from exotic odors to traditional dishes, Osman's Taj Mahal have remained synonymous with quality spices and condiments. Taj Mahal rice, beans, and lentils. Try our range of chili bite mixes, rose and ilachi syrup, our quick and easy biryani pack, and our traditional range of spice blends. Osman's Taj Mahal. There is no substitute for quality.
A strip of land with over 2 million people blockaded for 13 years. Healthcare is on its knees. Food is scarce and water is inadequate. COVID has wreaked havoc in the lives of the people of Gaza. 53% of the population live below the poverty line. 80% of Gaza relies on external aid to survive. And 20,000 children are now orphans. The future is bleak. Please, don't forget Gaza. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education. From books to files to rulers. In fact, any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
The time is just gone 10 minutes to 9 a.m. on News and Views this morning, and we've just learned about the breaking news, the military coup in Myanmar, where the civilian leader has been basically overthrown, and there is a state of emergency at this point in time. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be playing out a clip, and this clip is just about a minute or two, and just take a listen to this. And this is the civilian leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, and she has been overthrown. We are trying, obviously, very, very hard at this point in time to get a lot more information as to the background, and also getting a lot more information or detail surrounding the coup that has taken place in Myanmar. Take a listen to this.
In Burma, there were raids made by the military on 26 different leaders across Burma, including that of Aung San Suu Kyi, the president, and other chief ministers from other states in Burma. This is obviously significant because it begins basically the path to a military coup. We've seen the internet being cut, the phone lines being shut down, state TV being taken over, and an announcement made that a state of emergency will be imposed for the course of 1 year. And this all comes on the back of claims of fraud by the military, against the NLD, the National League for Democracy, during the November 2020 elections, which are largely without evidence, and it doesn't seem to be true. But also at the same time, over the last few days, it seems that the military have been kind of posturing to implement this coup and to go back to the rule of military power. Of course, this does not spell good news for the Rohingya, particularly, who have already been on the back end of one of the genocides committed in 2017 by the same military that's now in power. Nor does it bode well for any of the other ethnic communities across Burma. And it especially doesn't bode well because while the genocide was not kind of cried out or was not shouted down by international governments, and while they may be screaming and shouting about this coup by the military, in essence and in effect, it will have little impact on the future of democracy in Burma, and for human rights in Burma. It's very worrying times ahead.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
The time is just gone 8:53 a.m. and a lot of anticipation in South Africa as the country is getting its first 1 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. We have heard earlier on that possibly at around 3 p.m. this afternoon. The key question is, how will South Africans react to being vaccinated? Will they welcome the vaccine rollout initiative? We joined on the line by the director of the University of Johannesburg Center for Social Change, Professor Karen Ronchiman. Professor Karen, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm hoping I've got your your surname pronounced properly.
It's Runciman. It means my ancestors stole horses from the English.
Wow. Okay, that's quite interesting. Right. Let's look at the first 1 million doses of the vaccine. We've been a year down the line, almost a year down the line as far as this pandemic is concerned, and the much talked about vaccine is arriving. The key question is, how are South Africans expected to react to being vaccinated?
So what we've found from the UJ HSRC COVID-19 democracy survey is that 2/3 of adults indicate that they are definitely or probably likely to take the vaccine. So this is really, really pleasing, because as we know, we need about 67% of the population vaccinated to kind of really put an end to this virus. Of course, our findings are just based on adults, and the population obviously includes children. But it shows that the majority of adults in South Africa are actually willing to take the vaccine. And really the pressure is on just to make sure that those adults get the vaccine.
Yes. Now, key issues here is the questions, Professor, surrounding the vaccine. And I'm sure there have been many questions that have been raised before acceptance of this vaccine.
Yeah, absolutely. So although 2/3 say that they will take the vaccine, that's still a third who are either saying that they don't know or they're not sure if they will take the vaccine, or saying that they definitely won't. And for those who are currently vaccine hesitant, what we did find was the most common reasons for this hesitancy were concerns about side effects, concerns about the testing, the speed at which the vaccine has been developed, and also people just wanting more information about the vaccine. So I think what this demonstrates is that for those that are currently saying they're vaccine hesitant, that their reasons are largely, very legitimate and rational concerns, and highlights that good public health education on the vaccine could go some way in turning those who are currently unsure or saying that they won't take the vaccine into people that possibly will take the vaccine. What we did find was that conspiracy theories, although there's been a lot of focus on these, made up a very small proportion of the reasons that people gave for not wanting to take a vaccine. So I say it does highlight that people's concerns about the vaccine are legitimate, and we just need good public health education to help address some of those concerns.
Also, Professor, in your study, obviously the sample size is extremely important, and you need to have quite a broad participation for a study of this nature. So it basically covers, people from all backgrounds in terms of race, in terms of age, education, and the like as well. Are you satisfied that the sample size is sufficient for the study and to obviously and ultimately in terms of the findings and the conclusions that have been reached with a study of this nature?
So this has been an online survey, and the survey ran from the 29th of December to the 6th of January. And over 30,000 people participated in that survey. And of those 30,000, just over 10,000 fully completed the survey questionnaire. So we're basing our analysis off of those who fully completed the questionnaire. And then what we've done is that we've weighted those findings using data from Statistics South Africa, because obviously in an online survey, there are always going to be some coverage gaps, most notably amongst the older population. But once we weight those findings, what we're able to do is to say that they are broadly representative of the population at large. So given the large sample size, over 10,000 participants, we are fairly confident that this does represent broadly the population's views on the vaccine.
Also, Professor, when one looks at the case for taking the vaccine, or even, as you mentioned, the conspiracy theories, the key question here would be how informed is the public as far as vaccinations go? You know, what level of education have they got? How much information is available to them so that they can make a decision, and a decision that they can be happy with, and a decision that they could live with?
So what we find from the survey is that the majority of people do feel that they are informed about coronavirus. We didn't ask a question about their information about the COVID-19 vaccine. But when we do think about education, one of the surprising findings from the survey is that those with less than matric education were the most likely to want to take the vaccine. So 72% of those with less than matric education were willing to take the vaccine. And that compared with only 59% for those with a tertiary education. So this goes a little against your expectations. You would expect maybe those with more education to be more positive towards the vaccine. But again, I think what was just highlighted is the information gap for some people, as that did come through strongly, especially for those who say they don't know if they'll take the vaccine. Really, many of them just want more information so they can take an informed decision about their health. And as I say, I think that makes a lot of sense, that people do want more information. And in terms of getting that more information, I think government has to take the lead in providing that. But I think also there's a broad scope for civil society involvement, our religious institutions, that they can all play a role in helping get factual information out there on the vaccine.
And finally, Professor, we know that it's within a matter of hours where the first batches of vaccine will arrive in the country. And I suppose over the next few months, we definitely will see exactly, what your study has revealed and how people will be reacting. So we are in for some interesting times, but also at the same time, one cannot take the eye off the ball, and we know COVID-19 is a reality, and the next few months are going to be critical.
Absolutely. I mean, what the survey also demonstrates is the importance of political leadership in the pandemic. So both when we look at things like vaccine acceptance, but also adherence to mask wearing, those who think that President Ramaphosa has done a good job in handling the COVID-19 pandemic are much, much more likely to want to take the vaccine and to want to do things like wearing their masks every time they go out. But for those who think he's doing a bad job, they're much less likely to want to take the vaccine. So only about a third of those who think President Ramaphosa is doing a bad job want to take the vaccine. And similarly, those who think he's doing a bad job are less likely to wear their masks every time they go out. So it highlights the importance of political leadership during the pandemic and the influence that this has on the decisions that people take around their health and on safety measures under the pandemic.
Well, Professor Karen Runciman, thank you very much for that and for your time with us this morning. We do appreciate it. We wish you all the best, and please take care.
Thank you very much.
That was